So for guiding us through this intricate passages, we are keen to explore, embark on a journey of understanding and enlightenment. Much like the resilient spirit of Hampi, CA Jatin Christopher embodies resilience in navigating the labyrinthine world of taxation. Join us on this journey as we explore the parallels between the enigmatic kingdom of Hampi and the ever-evolving challenges of GST and emerge with insights to strengthen and fortify our financial fortress.
Yes, my friends, I now request CA Rajendra Kumar, Central Council Member, and CA Sundararajan, Region Council Member, to escort our speaker to the dais, CA Jatin Christopher. Let's hear a round of applause to CA Jatin Christopher, sir, who's going to give a lot of enlightenment on GST facing litigations and inspection.
I now request CA Raghunandan P, Chairman of Mysore branch of ICI, to welcome the speaker with a bouquet.
I request CA Rajendra Kumar, Central Council Member, to give the keynote address on this contemporary issue.
Very esteemed and erudite speaker of this post-lunch technical session, my very, very dear friend, Jatin. Friends, all of us are assembled here to take home certain ideas, to take home certain points that will be propounded by Jatin. A person who has issued a show cause notice to you, don't expect that he will confirm in your favor. If he confirms in your favor, then he has to go and ask for favors for his seat, for his chair before the authorities. So litigation is going to be on a larger scale. Tribunals have already been formed. The government has extended the date also of filing the appeals. But at the end of the day, friends, let us also be conscious that through this practice, we should also earn for ourselves. I'm not telling that we should create avenues for earning. Please. If something comes your way, ensure that you earn also for yourself. Jatin is here. I am eager. In fact, why I am stretching the talk a little bit is I want some more people to come sit here and be benefited by your lecture. So I now request Jatin to please take us through his topic. And I know your level, Jatin. Please speak to my height. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving us an insight into the complexities and confusions in this GST era, which we all are sure that by the end of the session will be sorted out.
CA Jatin Christopher, a chartered accountant, cost accountant and a law graduate. He qualified in 1996 and specializes in indirect tax laws. A published author and a resource person of our institute in its various post-qualification program on indirect taxation and extends support to ICI in various publications of educational and research materials on various indirect tax topics. He is also a resource person of the government in conducting training for practitioners, trade and officers. He has been in practice since 2000 as a partner in JCSS, a full-service firm with presence across India. With this words of introduction, this dais is over to you, sir.
I recognize that we're in the SIRC platform members have come from different places. So we'll start by setting the background to this topic that's been assigned about litigation in GST. Clearly this is a conference not in Delhi or Bombay. Clearly this is a conference that's for members to share some thoughts among ourselves relating to taxpayers from the SME segment. So we have to identify how the landscape exists now since the last 6 years in GST without necessarily going back into how it was in the past. I take this as a privilege. I acknowledge RK's presence and presence of all the dignitaries who are here, permitting me to share some of my thoughts. Many young chartered accountants I recognize are also here. Some even came and tried to mislead me that it is because of me they have come all the way. We all know that's not true. A wonderful place like Hospet. All the arrangements are so wonderful. I'm only in between lunch and tea. Alright, if you find someone sitting next to you, who seem like they're absorbing all what they're hearing me say and deep in thought, don't disturb them till tea time. Let's look at litigation from the tax officer's perspective. We very often look at it from the taxpayer's perspective, tax professional's perspective. Tax officers don't have the educational background and training like chartered accountants do. For various reasons. For various reasons they come from very varied backgrounds. And they work in a hierarchical system where results are very clearly defined. Targets are set weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual, so on and so forth. And there's no playing favorites with the tax officer. So when you look at it from this point of view, who better than auditors can understand this sentiment? Who better than auditors can understand this sentiment? When you get a new audit client, obviously you're going to do a lot more work in the first year when you get a new client than in the later years. And the sentiment is to find fault with the work of someone else who has gone before you. And auditors understand this sentiment probably the best. So let's accept that if your client's name shows up on the GST system, on their radar in some fashion, the objective is to set an example for society out of this taxpayer. Think of all those backbenchers in school and college. And if those backbenchers who are now frontbenchers in this profession, if those backbenchers were to get caught by the teacher, obviously a teacher can't reprimand all the students. She'll take that one person and she will give him such a dressing down that she will set an example for the rest of the class. Some of us in my class, examples were set with us for the whole school. For the next 2 batches. You remember 1990 batch? See what happened to them. So therefore, please accept that tax officer's role is to reject your answers. But taxpayers, on the other hand, let's understand the sentiment of the taxpayers. Taxpayers don't care about our opinion. Our opinion is only to have some intellectual conversation, seemingly intellectual conversation among ourselves. Taxpayer will do what that industry has decided to do. I mean, gaming industry is a case in point. Can you imagine the whole industry got show cause notices? It's not a few people, all of them, huge values. So therefore, taxpayer is not interested in your opinion. So who is this opinion for? It's really our own confusion, our own satisfaction. So here's a tax officer who's out to set an example. Out of the very first taxpayer he gets his hands on, and every taxpayer he's able to get his hands on. Here is a taxpayer who's not doing what is necessarily the right thing to do. He's doing what is on the top of the bell curve. What most are doing is what this taxpayer is doing. If this is the landscape, what is our role? Now let's look at how we approach this subject. If you ask many young people in the context of GST law, if you ask them, is it taxable? The answer is no, it's not taxable. Why is it not taxable? Gottila, I will tell you after I come back from hospital, I will find out what the answer. I already have an answer. I just need the justification to reach that answer. We have some misplaced loyalties. We are loyal to our clients. There's some mysterious attraction clients have over us that we somehow think that we have to be loyal to our clients. But we all know that clients are not loyal to consultants. They have all the consultants' phone numbers, and whatever answer you have given has already been discussed with a couple of others. The other side is we are trying to be loyal to tax officers. How many have tax officers' mobile phone numbers stored in your mobile phone and vice versa? Yes, so basically everybody. We somehow have this definition in our mind that success in practice is defined by how many officers you know on first name basis. I think these things are not necessary in GST. If we want to pursue this path, you are welcome to do this and 10 years later discover that it is not worth it. Because proximity with a tax officer, I would call an unholy association, because one of the two is waiting to exploit the other. Sir, my client, please sanction refund. Jatin, your client, please tell him to pay, I have targets. So therefore we will need to sort of reset where our priorities should lie, where should we be showing our loyalties to. So I would simply respond to that even saying that our loyalty should be to the law. Not the taxpayer, not the tax officer. Our loyalty should be to the law, and our loyalty should be to our craft. I got a phone call from one young chartered accountant, and he immediately said, he called 3-4 times. I was, I don't know how this works, but when you're on one phone call, another phone call will only come at that time. Other times it will not. So he's called 3-4 times. So I finally got around to ask him what was the medical emergency. Otherwise, why 3-4 times? Anyway, so I asked him what is the problem. I got a notice. Okay, so I said, under which section? I don't know, I didn't open the cover. Fear and ignorance have been our friends for a long time. Fear and ignorance have been our friends for a long time. Proximity with tax officers have become our ally. I think all these three things we should let go of. And when we're speaking about SME segment, taxpayers in this segment are very important for the economy. We understand that. Tax professionals are even more important to support this segment. Taxpayers are even more important to support this segment. So when you look at litigation in the context of GST, specifically addressing small and medium enterprises, please resign to the fact that everybody is going to get notices. If anyone's not got a notice, you have not logged in a long time. Everyone's got notices. This afternoon, before lunch, I was talking to somebody. He said, sir, we got an order. What should we do next? Not a notice. It's gone to the next, we've already got an order. What should we do next? See, logically, you should pay what they're asking. Sir, I don't want to pay all that. Calm down. The next best thing to do is to file an appeal. What is the date of order, sir? Sir, November, sir. I was taken aback. We are not yet in November. No, sir. 2022. What should we do? Lethargy is the other thing that comes along the process. So friends, I think being able to equip ourselves better to address needs of SME segment perhaps places a responsibility on us to get slightly better organized as far as due dates, timelines, statutory compliances. And I'm sure we understand this and we will also implement this because we know the importance, because timelines in GST is one thing that's not negotiable. There is no one person high enough in the system in GST who has the authority to dispense justice. In GST, there is no tax officer who is entrusted with the duty to be the custodian of justice. We share this with tax officers also. Many tax officers say, I will do justice. Relax. That is not your role. In GST, follow the procedures, justice will take care of itself. Follow the procedures, justice will take care of itself. But what is the procedure? Procedure is to know which section, what action. If you know the section, then you will know the action. So I asked this person, you please open that envelope and tell me what is that notice. Sir, this notice says that they're going to come next week for audit. Calm down, that's all. It's a notice that, it's not a demand notice, it's a notice that they're going to visit the taxpayer's premises to conduct audit the following week. So please bear in mind, we need to know which section, therefore what action. We had an instance recently where department has filed an appeal. So the taxpayer has got a favorable order and the department has filed appeal, and hearing is fixed to appear before the appellate authority on behalf of the respondent, which is the taxpayer. So the taxpayer attended the hearing. Taxpayer is given a copy of the departmental appeal that is filed. The short question there was, taxpayer has got relief in adjudication. Department is not happy with this, so they have carried the matter in appeal. So the appellate authority is asking the taxpayer to explain, so what do you have to say? So the taxpayer, with all his preparation, with all his enthusiasm, was about to launch into offering his explanation of what was the case all about. All that he was told is, please don't say anything. It is not your case. It is department's case. Let them explain what is it that they are aggrieved by. After department explained what was their reason they were aggrieved with this order, it turned out that the departmental appeal was time barred. There is a time limit for everything, so friends, don't think it only works for taxpayers. It cuts both ways. It works both ways. It's a very old decision of 1936 that says when power is given to do a particular thing, not at all. If you do it in this way. Otherwise, you don't bother about doing it. Many tax officers get very excited. I'm not doing my personal work. I'm not doing my personal work. I'm not doing my personal work. I'm doing government's work. It's possible some people get carried away with their roles. There is no need for anyone to express more passion about protecting interests of revenue about revenues than Parliament. And if Parliament says you don't do it this way, and if you do it, you have to do it only this way, no officer can express greater enthusiasm. Please recollect our friends. Fear and ignorance. Our allies, proximity to tax officers. These three things do us great disservice. These three things are doing a lot of disservice to us, because when the officer is traveling beyond the statute, we go weak in the knees to ask him what is his authority. Why are you doing what you are doing at this time? We don't have courage to do this. How many will accept a GST notice from police commissioner? I am also commissioner. Follow the procedure, justice will take care of itself. Every section has a officer who is designated as the proper officer. He is proper, he is officer, he needs to be proper officer. There's a lot of difference legally as to who can do what. Everyone who understands who's in the GST department cannot take action under any section. In Bellary, in Hospet, Yadgir, Raichur, Gulbarga, Davanagere, Chitradurga, umpteen number of notices where tax officers have completely been overcome by this pressure of targets that they are issuing notices under any section. They are issuing notices under any section, and if you raise objections asking them why are you doing this, under which section are you doing this, they get upset. Friends, I'm sure you understand, in a given situation, when you provide your response and this response upsets the other person, does it mean you're doing something wrong, or does it mean you're most likely doing something right? Those with more than 20 years of happy married life will know the answer. If the other person gets upset, it's most likely that you're doing something right, and you just need to persevere with this. Being polite is different from being fearful. Being polite is completely different from being fearful. I would encourage chartered accountants to overcome this limitation that we have all put ourselves under, that we are fearful of tax officers. You know, the kind of people who we are afraid of, I tell you, inspector, we are afraid of. Sipai, bill collector, CTO, superintendent. I'll give you one example. There was a show cause notice which was bad in law. Substantial amount of demand, and the taxpayer was not in a position to accept and pay that liability. So a reply was filed, and the hearing was conducted before Principal Commissioner. In Central Taxes, Principal Commissioner is the highest ranking officer in the entire Commissionerate. In that Commissionerate, 14 districts come under him. Entire Commissionerate, he is the highest ranking officer, and when we were explaining to him the defects and deficiencies in the notice, he got very interested. He said, "This is very interesting, tell me more, I want to understand more." And after about 15-20 minutes of arguments, he said, "You are making a very excellent point." And he went on to say in Hindi, "मुझे भी ऊपर किसी को जवाब देना पड़ता है. I also have someone higher up to answer to. So therefore, I won't be able to accept what you are saying. I will have to confirm the demand. You please carry the matter in appeal. You will definitely get success." I am not interested in his best wishes. I am heartbroken that the highest ranking officer is expressing helplessness. If the Principal Commissioner is helpless, what are we trying to befriend the inspector, bill collector, CTO and AC? Please let them do their job. Many times, when there is a proceeding, we try to convince the other person. Let me share this with you. A reply to a notice is not a justification. A reply to a notice is not a justification. A reply to a notice is a stand I am taking. Do you want to go to Hampi? No. Banre, people don't stop once you provide them new information. This is our upbringing. When you go to somebody's house, they will offer you something to eat or drink. You must not readily say, yes, I want. Please give me 2 cups of coffee. Please give me jangri. Please give me some. You should say no. They will insist. You should say no once again. And then it so happened that they didn't ask the 3rd time. This fellow came back hungry. We somehow merge personal life with our professional functioning. We need to be very clear. A reply to a notice is a stand I am taking. 2A is not matching 3B. What is the most reasonable stand to take? 2A is not matching 3B. So what? So what? Nobody's 2A is matching here. Anybody's 2A is matching here? People whose 2A is matching with 3B are those people in Noida we read about in the paper. No business, only paperwork. GSTR 1, GSTR 2A, 3B, everything is matching. In a real business, things don't match. In a real business, things don't match. How many had to struggle to get into the suits that we are all wearing today? In real life, these things don't match. When I went to get it stitched, it was fitting properly. Now something's happened. I think the fabric is not good. Something wrong with the fabric, especially in the Madhya Pradesh region. Something's wrong with the fabric. I should take this up seriously. Friends, please bear in mind, a reply is a stand I am taking. The response from the other person is not relevant. If he gets upset, then your confidence should only increase. But the trouble is, this fear, ignorance and desire to build proximity with taxpayers makes us offer an alternate response. In that case, why don't we meet for coffee? Because many things happen over coffee. Many things happen over coffee, and in GST there is no space for coffee. Alright? So therefore, please visualize, in GST everybody is going to get into litigation. I keep sharing this. Wherever you get a chance to go and sit in the tribunal, or maybe go to court perhaps, go to the tribunal. I would encourage you, Assistant, please go and sit there. If you see how proceedings take place, it's nothing like what we see Sunny Deol argue, Dr. Rajkumar. It's nothing like that. Please note this. Get out of this hall. You don't tell the judge what he has to do. Please go and see what happens. It will immensely boost your confidence. If all these people can make it, then surely I have a good chance. It's just that we have denied ourselves the opportunity to attempt anything new. And in GST is going to force us to get into something new. Speaking about litigation in GST, when you look at a favorable order, how many are interested in getting a favorable order? Obviously everybody. Everyone's too full to raise your hands. I know. We'll raise our hands after tea. Everyone wants a favorable order. How long can you wait before you can actually celebrate a favorable order? If you've got a favorable order in adjudication, you have 6 months time to quickly send your invoice and collect payment, because in 6 months time department will file appeal. If you've got a favorable order in appeal, you have 3 years time to finish all your celebration, posting on LinkedIn or wherever, Facebook. I see young people finish a hearing and take a selfie and post on Facebook, good hearing, and Joint Commissioner appeals in the background. 3 years to celebrate, because 108 permits the department to overturn orders of even appellate authorities. So friends, please bear in mind, if you get an adverse order, you are filing appeal. If you get a favorable order, they are filing appeal. So appeal is nearly guaranteed. Question is, did we foresee that we will be in appeal when we got the first notice? 2 things happen when notices come. First, it is disbelief. Notice, for me, my client, my retainership client, how is it possible? I am such a good person, I don't do anything bad. I even contributed to OSPED conference. How can I get notice? We are blinded by our innocence, and we think parading the truth will set everything right. Neither is your innocence relevant nor the truth relevant. All that matters in any litigation is what are the facts. The facts are allegations with proof. Fact is allegation with proof. The trouble is almost always there is no proof. You know where proof comes from? Proof comes when allegation is left undisputed. Undisputed allegations transform themselves into facts. Facts are really allegations with proof. 2A is not matching 3B. Allegation. What's the proof? Many times, if you ask me about the balance sheet I have prepared 3 years ago, I won't be able to give suitable explanation. How do you expect me to give explanation for something someone else filed? We begin to accept the allegation readily. We just need to be more confident. I will point you to one section in GST which I would rate as the most powerful section in GST, section 59. Very short section. It says, every registered person shall self-assess the tax payable under this act and discharge the tax in the returns filed under section 39. Every registered person shall self-assess the tax. Who is the assessing officer in GST? Sakshat Man. Who is the assessing officer? If somebody believes that the self-assessment I have carried out is not to their satisfaction, who has the burden to disprove my assessment? Who has the burden to disprove my assessment? The one who is making this allegation. But chartered accountants are so good at reconciliation that we don't even want to understand whose burden it is to prove the allegation. 2A is not matching 3B. Sir, you give me 2 days. No, 2 days is not there. 1 day, 1 night review, sir, full night I will sit. I don't have family, children, nothing. Wife, WhatsApp. Arda samsara WhatsApp alle kalmate, sir. It's okay. Children, video call. Nowadays video call also possible. Almost real, sir. Latest phone I have, as if I can see my children's face. For real. We will do reconciliation. We are so good at reconciliation, we can even reconcile debtors with creditors. How? You ask Prashant, he will tell you where to keep the balancing figure. Where all those kids keep the balancing figure, even he won't be able to find. So please bear in mind whose burden it is to prove the allegation. Till that person discharges that burden, what should we do? Knowledge is to know what to speak, but wisdom is to know, happily married people will tell you this, when to speak. You may have an answer, that's not relevant. This worked for us in CA final. Did you understand question number 7? Did you get the answer? It's not necessary to get the question also. Answer I have answers for 100 marks. I will write for 45 pages, extra paper also I will take. How many have taken extra answer paper? Now we are getting nearer to tea time, so some can. See, one and a half honest persons. Extra answer paper. Why extra answer paper? So much you have to write. Impression. I have to impress the valuer so that 45 pages this person has written, at least 40 he should get. Then every group has one paper, not a set of group. Please bear in mind, when the answer is long, I think most likely the answer is wrong. Because if it's something worth being said, it can be said in 4 short sentences. And if it can't be said in 4 short sentences, I think there's no real answer. How many have written 50-page replies to notices? Honest people, the others who are, you can raise your hand in your mind. I can still see. Everyone have written 50-page answer. What is the honest truth? Why do we write 50-page answers? Ella fees goskaram. Fees and the size of reply, direct connection. 2 lakhs fees, 250 page. What will you give? Memorandum and articles we will attach. We'll start with background. Company started in the year 1997. With great enthusiasm, the promoters came together when they were 21 years old. Allah, for 2A is to 3B, why you want promoters back? Mahal bana nahi. When it is worth being said, you can say it like this and be done with it. And I'm telling you friends, in GST litigation, it is not our turn to say anything yet. 2A is not matching with 3B. ಆಮೇಲೆ R1 is not matching with 3B. So, how many have filed returns that are perfectly correct? Please raise your hand. My goodness, 1%. Only 1%. Everyone knows that they have made mistakes. Some people don't know where those mistakes are. All returns are wrong. Let me ask you an honest question. How many believe that your books of accounts, with great enthusiasm, from April we'll start. Some people start before March also. From April we will start till September 30th. We will somehow work hard to get the balance sheet done and filed. How many believe that your balance sheet is an admissible piece of evidence? Nobody. Section 34 of Evidence Act of 1872 says books of accounts are an unreliable source of evidence unless it has corroboration. That's why GST is in Group 2. So friends, we have to understand the process of dispensation of justice because your case will have to be carried from strength to strength. Nobody is going to hear what you have to say and say, "Here an answer for the brilliant fellow. What argument? 50 pages are not worth it. 50 pages didn't do the trick. 50 pages didn't work at all." So please bear in mind, we have to foresee 3 steps ahead what's going to happen when we make the first decision. The analogy with cricket is very appropriate here. This is not 2020. Toss at 7 o'clock, result at 11 o'clock. This is not 2020, this is test match. If you visualize what is going to be pitch condition on 5th day, on day 1 when you win the toss, you have to decide you will bat or you will let them bat. We have to have a good idea where this is going. How many would want a good notice for a moderate amount? And how many would want a horrible notice for a substantial amount? How many would want a very good, well-drafted notice for a moderate amount of demand? And how many would want a horribly drafted notice for a very substantial demand? Obviously, decent people in Hospet will not raise their hand, but I am familiar with the human element. All of us want a notice for a horrible notice for a very substantial demand. Of course we want. So therefore, when you visualize it from this point of view, I think we should step away from this initial alarm and disappointment and shocks. How is it possible? How can I get notice? See, getting a notice is not a test of your character. Those who know you well will tell you what a hopeless person you are. Getting a notice is only a test of an alternate interpretation that is possible. What have you paid? IGST, CGST. What have you paid? I paid CGST. For you, IGST. What is your transaction? Export. Not export. You are intermediary. Sir, I have paid tax. You are not supposed to pay tax. Who told you to pay tax? You are exempt. So therefore you please reverse ITC. In GST, do you know of a single provision that has only one interpretation possible? A single provision where there is only one interpretation. Every provision is inherently capable of plurality of interpretation, depending on the context. There is a Ayurvedic hospital. Somebody called yesterday and said, "Sir, I'm running an Ayurvedic hospital. I have got a show cause notice saying that I am not a hospital. I'm running an Ayurvedic hospital. They are saying I am not a hospital and I am liable to pay GST, what should I do? Because thinking that I am a hospital, I didn't take any ITC for the last 6 years. So let's see what they say. Let's see the show cause notice. I have seen very few things in a show cause notice nowadays surprise me, but this one was new. There is a guest register in this hospital. People who come there for 3 days, 2 days, 4 days for their whatever treatment they do in Ayurvedic hospitals. In that guest register, some people have written, loved, the care and attention will come back soon. The guest has written in this guest register, loved, the care and attention will come back soon. They have extracted that, and that is evidence to say, anybody will say like this when they go to hospital. Will come back soon, loved the care and attention, loved the doctor, told him to visit him, gave him my WhatsApp number. There's a difference, isn't it? So therefore, we begin to get defensive as soon as someone refuses to accept our interpretation. How many have come up with wrong answers in GST? Exactly, all of us. It is because of the kindness of the organizers that I am permitted to pretend like I am some sort of expert in GST, but I know you know that I am no such expert. So therefore, we've all made mistakes. We've all learned from those mistakes. Some will soon discover that that interpretation they were talking about was wrong. So therefore, we are learning this new law. We must accept the possibility that we would have got some things wrong. Some things wrong. Great celebration on 1st of October. Why? Great celebration on 1st of October. Why? Because 1718 crossed the time limit to issue notice. This is like when you go to school and you discover that the teacher is on leave that day. Even now that one moment of happiness comes in your heart, correct? So therefore, please visualize. We must come out of this anxiety about why we are getting notices. We must almost be disappointed. Last 3 days, no notices. We have to be so equipped. We have to be so equipped about notices that we will need to recognize exactly how we are prepared. So, honest question, you don't have to raise your hand, you don't have to answer it to me, answer it to yourself. If you were to get a notice, what is your first reaction? If it elevates your blood pressure, then you are not prepared. I would only invite you to please accept this elevated state of living permanently, because GST guarantees that every single day, because every day is a due date. For something or the other, every day is a due date. So therefore, we will need to just equip ourselves to be able to address this. When you look at 3 areas in GST, it brings sharp focus to those areas, because tax officer has no business to enter into my business premises. Tax officer has no business to enter into my business premises. He has only 3 sections under which he can come in. He can come in through section 61. He can come in through section 65. He can come in through section 67. Only 3 sections. If you don't know which section, then you will not even know if he is the proper officer. He is officer who is proper, but he is not the proper officer. 61, if you are registered with the state jurisdiction, only state jurisdiction officer can conduct proceedings under 61. If you are registered with central tax, only central tax officer can conduct proceedings under 61. Similarly, audit also can be conducted only by that department. Registered with state officers will do audit. Registered with central officers will do audit under 65. 67 is the only provision where both central tax and state tax can come in and conduct an investigation. But please bear in mind, there are rights, remedies and safeguards in the law to protect taxpayers from high-handedness by tax officers. There are rights, remedies and safeguards in the law to protect taxpayers from high-handedness by tax officers, because 67 is exercised by enforcement and vigilance officers in the state. Enforcement and vigilance officers in the state, preventive, anti-evasion and DGGI in the Central Tax Department. Only these officers can exercise powers under 67. Although they have wide powers, they can conduct surprise inspection, extending the inspection to a search or a seizure. I'm sure all of us have had some enforcement officer visit us. Fear and ignorance, desire to maintain proximity with officers, extends cooperation to the officer. Pani sir, Pani, please sit down. What do you want? What do you want? Balance sheet. R1, 3B, R1, 3B, 2A, 3B. You said have tea, I will do everything. What else you want? Blood report, take mine. I have too much, take mine. X-ray, scan. Where's your client? Client, please sir, his tension I am taking, so mostly same cholesterol level I will have. Take mine, full chartered accountant. Client service, important. I've learned all these things growing up. We need to know tax officer who invokes section 67 should first know that he can only inquire into evasion of tax. He can only look into evasion of tax. And the beauty in the law is that knowledge about evasion must be held before they visit. So we had this officers training. So the discussion was about section 67. We discussed about the various ingredients of section 67 with tax officers, and the tax officer during tea break said, "Sir, one question." "Yes sir, I will try to answer." "Sir, you are saying I should know about the evasion before itself. Only if I visit I will know where is the evasion." So I'll give you an example. There is this doctor, good doctor, elderly gentleman, very good with patients, but whatever is your complaint, he follows systematic approach. All patients have to lie down on the examination table. He will start with, open your mouth, open your eyes. "Doctor, sprain in the leg." Lie down, open your mouth. And then he will work his way down. Now to that, now to that. He will keep working his way down. If you keep saying no, he will keep pressing. He will keep on pressing, and he will keep on pressing till you start screaming and shouting. The purpose of any proceeding is to keep searching till they discover something, isn't it? Having come to inspect something, can they go back? How many auditors here have done internal audit and did not have anything to report for that quarter? Namgen baralva. Payment voucher without revenue stamp. That will always be there in the internal audit report. If nothing is there, this will be there. Internal control need to be improved. How? There is still scope. Please bear in mind, the role of a tax officer is not to appreciate what you have done. The role of a tax officer is to find additional avenues of revenue. How many can, in all honesty, think about your clients and say that there is no scope for any additional revenue? Everything is picture perfect. The smile on your faces is evidence that names are coming up in your minds. Oh, that fellow, oh, this fellow, he is there are some who are in this yellow category, not green, yellow category. Some are in this orange category. And those names which are coming to your mind now, red. Because those choices you didn't make. Taxpayers have to make a choice to operate in an ecosystem that is compliant. Your suppliers must be compliant, your customers must be compliant, and GST demands that compliance is ensured on both sides. Suppliers have to be compliant, customers have to be compliant. That's when you will have everything falling in line. So therefore, friends, in the real world, when you are looking at real transactions, you will have some outliers. So you can expect notices. There could be instances where you will have to discharge some demand. There may be instances where you may have to defend some demand. When you look at transactions, it becomes imminent that we should now be aware. We are all waiting for the limitation period to pass. September 30th. Limitations pass. 18, 19, nodala. I'll go to Hampi and come. 18, 19, 19, 20. Then Banana sir will organize seminar in one more place. I will go there. After final, only temple tours is going on. You have to stay back in office and find out what is it that the tax officer can find out. Why am I not able to find that out beforehand? I would encourage everybody, please get your house in order. Your house is not in order. Your house is not in order. We need to get our house in order. We don't want notices, but we are now suffering, we will hovering in a state of inertia where we don't know exactly where to start, what we need to do. So in GST, litigation is inevitable and we will find litigation coming in a variety of sources. There are certain areas where everyone's going to get noticed. There are certain areas, for example, mismatch of data. Today's system is generating notices. It's a very unheard of system for me, where the system will generate a notice. So you can't even talk to an officer and say, sir, what is this notice? What notice? Yesterday I got a notice. I see. Send me one copy also. System is going to generate a notice and you've got 7 days to provide a response whether you accept or you don't accept the remedy. How do you dispute a demand? How do you dispute a demand? Tendency is to think that I should give a strong justification if I have to dispute a demand. In GST, two expressions can do wonders. I dispute the demand. Now the demand stands disputed. Disputed demands cannot go into aggressive recovery. There are certain provisions in GST law that permit tax officers to directly go to the bank and recover money and so on. Aggressive recovery is barred when it is a disputed demand, and to dispute the demand, you need to take a stand that you dispute the demand. The allegation that is made against the taxpayer, how do you say, everyone gets A7010, and tell you the question that you could ask yourself and answer quietly, how many have written reply to A7010 in more than 1 page? You are giving an explanation. I dispute the demand, I reject the allegation. Please step back, wait for revenue to discharge their burden. Something is not matching with something. Be very, very careful. In the way we give an answer lies affirmation of wrongdoing. I'll give a small example. You'll be able to visualize what is going on. Let's say in this part of the state, there are a lot of notices saying RCM of GST is payable on royalty, RCM of GST is payable on arecanut, cotton. Output we have paid tax. RCM we have not paid tax is the allegation. Output we have paid tax, RCM we have not paid tax. Officer says you have purchased X rupees worth of cotton, you are liable to pay RCM. There are 3 possible answers to this question. I will give one answer only. Within this answer, I want you to please help me answer further questions. RCM on cotton is not payable because forward charge has been paid on the finished product. Understood the answer? RCM is not payable because full tax has been discharged on forward charge basis on the finished product. Please ask yourself this question. In this answer, am I indirectly admitting that I have not paid RCM? Or in this answer, I am saying that I have already paid RCM, don't ask once again. Friends, we have to, chartered account, I agree with what Arke said, chartered accountants are brilliant with words. It's just that we are using it with the wrong people. We are brilliant with words. You see the way our statutory audit reports are written, it looks like something wonderful is being described about the company, but it is in the qualifications portion of the auditor's report. You're wondering, the way you will present your observation, that skill, we just have to bring it to the fore, even in GST, and use it to see how we have to take a stand. We need to be very unequivocal. What is the stand? Have you paid RCM? Have you not paid RCM? The answer is binary, yes or no. If there is an explanation, then we are not giving a we are not taking a clear stand. I want to also point you to another direction. Whenever we have conferences, particularly when we talk about GST and NCs introduce the topic and say it's a very complex area, we have to unravel this, and I'm sure participants will get value, etc. Somewhere along the line, we are mixing two things. Competence and expertise are two different things. Competence is whatever we do it with integrity, and we do it professionally, and we do it well within time. There is no such thing as good work, not so good work, great work, someone is better, someone is inferior. We put ourselves down all the time. We don't see our own potential. And when we speak to clients, we permit clients to tell us what needs to be done. We got a show cause notice. We were talking to someone mentioned this, Ms. Mohan Lavi mentioned this during the lunch break. We got a show cause notice. The officer has issued a show cause notice. Senior members in the profession will be able to appreciate this. Officer said, your depreciation is too much. It was very shocking for anybody. You can understand. What do you mean depreciation is too much? Okay, we will reduce the rate of depreciation next year. It's not something you can do that. Your depreciation is too much. What do you do when someone says something like that? Okay sir, next what? What do you want to do? See, the reason why I am telling you is, now you are claiming 10% depreciation on your machinery. In Corona time also you are claiming 10%. Why? See, logic. Buddhi use matter. Corona also 10%, after Corona also 10%, your depreciation is too much. So therefore he says, what do you want to do? Pay tax. Okay sir. How much? 18%, of course. Saka. 28 is too much, 18 is enough. On what value? Of course, cost plus 10%. We have learned this from direct tax. Everything cost plus 10% is totally okay. Less than 10% only problem. Cost plus 10%, 18% GST. Now this officer is below DS Raman level in accounts. Now you are above, you are at Shukla Agrawal level. How do you bridge this gap? Please visualize how this case is going to progress. Is this a bad notice? Of course it's a bad notice. Is there a good chance you are going to win this case? Of course you are going to win this case. Of course you are going to win this case. If you know how you are going to win this case, decide what is the first thing you are going to say now. And if the first thing is disappointment, then I think we are being very naive. I think we are being fearful. I think we are being ignorant. I think we are still making allies out of tax, looking to make allies out of tax officers. The first reaction should be, so what's next? Show cause notice. Please bear in mind, taxpayer is not interested in your opinions. Taxpayer is not interested in your opinions. So competence and expertise are two different things. We can both choose, we can choose either of those paths and still be very successful in what we do. Still be happy with what we do. Litigation, non-litigation, accounting, audit, tax, advising, whatever it is. But in the name of expertise, we somehow tend to become lax as far as our competence is concerned. We take it for granted. I think it's okay. Let's not do this today. Let's do this tomorrow. Let's not
pay attention to this, let's not get it right, let's do this, let's carry forward these open items to the next month, next quarter, and so on and so forth. So please visualize this from this point of view. Competence and expertise are two entirely different things, and it's a decision we make. A decision that I will focus on competence in my area of work, a decision that I will leave this area of work and get into one small portion of that work and develop some expertise in that area. So therefore, someone said this well earlier also, that it's the passion that we show towards what is it that brings us happiness, and that's going to help us accomplish this beyond what the satisfaction, fees or anything else is able to produce. So when you look at notices, we see that tribunals are getting set up. When they say 31 tribunals are going to be set up, Karnataka is going to have 2 benches to begin with in Bangalore. Each bench is supposed to have 4, so there will be 8 members, A, B, C, D. That is how many tribunals are going to become operational. When you think about it from this point of view, when the government is showing this level of preparedness, see, when someone sets up an auditorium this big, obviously it means that this many people are going to show up. When this many tribunals are going to be set up, obviously it means that many cases are going to come, and not all of them are going to come from Bangalore. A large number of them are going to come from Hospet, Raichur, Gulbarga, Yadgir, Koppal, Belgaum, Bijapur, Bali. This side of question is, there is a need, the crying need for taxpayers to find someone who will fill them with confidence to say that this we can litigate. This can be raised at a suitable forum to get relief. Many times I find tax professionals come and say, "Sir, but the interest is exorbitant. The interest is exorbitant." So this, we got this notice on this depreciation business. This notice came in. The client came back and said, "Can you handle this notice?" So our question was, "Do you want to pay this tax? Do you want to pay this tax?" So the taxpayer said, "I don't have the money to pay this kind of tax on depreciation. I don't have that kind of money, no budgets, I'm not going to pay this tax." Very often, we take the responsibility that the client's supposed to take to make that decision. Do you want to pay the tax? Do you want to dispute the tax? Do you want to pay the demand? Do you want to dispute the demand? Taxpayer will ask. 2 days ago, I had someone call me and said they've got some litigation going on. He said, "Sir, what do you think are the chances that we will win this case? What do you think are the chances that we will win this case?" Everyone has a good chance of winning the case. "No, sir, but in percentage, can you tell me?" Clients tend to exert pressure to extract some assurance from the tax consultant. It is at that moment that we will need to be true to our craft, our loyalty to the law and to our craft. To be true to our craft, we are not in a position to make any estimate of what will be the outcome. As long as the chances are good, the client has made a decision, we can proceed to see how this is going to play out. Please consider this one aspect. Client came back and said, "Sir, strong reply Barkadi." Client said, "Please prepare a strong reply." Made me think, here is the situation where the client is facing a very big demand, and here is this client giving consultancy to consultant. Here is this client giving consultancy to consultant. Do you know of any patient who gave suggestion to surgeon? "Doctor, when I'm under anesthesia, what you do, you start here, you go all the way here." We are responsible for the state of affairs. The surgeon is the one who has given this much free hand to the patient, that the patient is now giving consultancy as to how the surgeon should go on. This is one area we will need to take a stand, because how the case needs to be dealt with is for the chartered accountant to decide. How the case needs to be dealt with is for the chartered accountant to decide, and it's not for the client. I had this conversation once. A company got a audit report observation. 65 department did an audit. They made an audit observation of 5 pages. It's one issue, very big demand, one issue. They made an observation of 5 pages and sent it to the company. The company went and contacted a expert. They must have given him that same advice. Sir, detailed reply barkadi. Please give a very detailed reply. So this person, he got fully excited. He prepared a reply. There's one decision from Madras High Court he added. One from Delhi, one from Central Excise, many from service tax. Then he thought for some more time. Then he took some from some definitions of certain terms from Black's Law Dictionary. Then he looked up one more book called Legal Lexicon. He put some words from there. He was still not satisfied. He said, detailed. Extra answer paper. European Court of Justice. Anything less than, we are suckers for it. European Court of Justice. He added all that and he made a 50-page reply. Completely thrilled with himself. 5-page report, one issue, 50-page reply. Client satisfied, chartered accountant satisfied. 2 weeks later, client comes running to our office with 60-page show cause notice. I saw first time seeing a show cause notice with a decision from Madras High Court, Delhi High Court, Central Excise judgment, Service Tax judgment, decision from European Court of Justice in show cause. I have seen orders without one single decision. I am seeing a show cause notice with case law. I was completely impressed with that officer for 5 minutes. Then I saw the font is different. First few pages is different font. Next 50 pages different font. Last 5, so you know what is happening. Microsoft, Zindabad. That is how it is happening. This is not just for humor, but it's a very sad state of how things have become in our line of work, particularly in tax litigation or pre-litigation work. I had a chance to speak to this chartered accountant. I asked him, sir, why do you in your office give 50-page replies before show cause notice? Before show cause notice, why are you giving 50-page reply? I was happy that he gave an answer very honestly. I was sad because it was such an honest answer. Ella fees goskara Jatin. All because of fees. In order to justify the retainership, we will expose the possible defenses that can be taken prematurely to the tax office. We feel defensive when we get a notice. What is this? You give advice. You go to hospital and you talk big things on stage. You give advice. Look, office has given show cause notice. To defend the advice, he's got overexcited and he's prepared a 50-page reply. Now we've got a 60-page show cause notice, which I had to deal with and not that person. Please bear in mind, we need to know 3 steps ahead how things are going to unfold. Everybody here is an expert. Right from your childhood, you are an expert. As soon as you go home, you know whether your father is in a good mood or a bad mood. You are so good at it, you knew exactly when to ask for permission to go on school picnic. You knew exactly when not to ask for cricket bat. And the beauty is, your kids are trying that on you and it is still working. When you look at any proceedings in GST, please be very, very careful. Do not prematurely disclose your defenses just because you are excited to parade your innocence. Bare your chest. Show how innocent you are, how truthful you are. Truth does not matter in GST. Facts do. Facts are what department believes and backs it up with evidence. You know so much about the business. It is not for you to disclose that too soon. You know so much about the business, but let them bowl the first ball. Can the batsman go ahead with the shot even before the bowler has released the ball? No, but this batsman is swinging away. He's swinging away because he knows all the shots. He knows all the shots. He does not even a ball. He does not even need a ball. Someone screamed, no ball, and held it. Please bear in mind, litigation in GST is inevitable. The only thing that is required is a little bit of confidence that we too can handle it. We too can handle it. We have been so busy with the work that we are currently involved in that we think that we'll either avoid litigation or we will give it to someone else to do it. I don't think it's possible for any number of people from any number of places to be able to bear your burdens. You know so much about your client. You know so much about your client that it is absolutely necessary that you should be the one to bear those burdens. I'll quickly take you through a few provisions in GST that is necessary for us to understand so that we can have some views about how to approach litigation. Look at one provision, section 75(2). Section 75(2) very simply says, when a show cause notice is issued stating that you have committed suppression of facts and later it is discovered that there is no such suppression, 75(2) says a notice issued under 74 will be deemed to be a notice issued under section 73. So when you get a show cause notice, there is no need to be disappointed that they have said it is under 74. If you are sure that you can prove there is no suppression, please see if you would like to take the concessional penalty route under 73 and fight this case going forward. 75(7). Another beautiful section in GST, 75(7). It says, when an adjudication order is being passed, the grounds on which the notice is given, the same grounds must be used while passing the order. The adjudicating authority cannot improve the notice. They don't know how to give the notice. I know how to give the notice. The grounds on which the notice is given, the same grounds, order must be passed. If there are better grounds, what should they do? They have to drop this notice. And if possible, issue a fresh notice if they are within limitation. So friends, we need to develop this ability to locate defects in a notice. How many have seen a GST notice? You can raise your hand now and answer. I'm sure you have seen it. Full question. Full question is recognized. Very, very important in GST. Yes. Already extra answer paper you have taken, both of you. Full question is, how many of you have seen a show cause notice without a single defect? Yes, gentlemen. Okay, those two gentlemen also are reconsidering their answer. All of us have seen notices, but none of us have seen a single notice that is free of defects. Defects become your defense. Defects become your defense. So please visualize, how do you capitalize on the defense? No, but wait a minute. What are we trying to do here? Are we trying to discover the truth? Are we trying to discover the truth? Ultimately, what is going on? Litigation is not a search for the truth. Litigation is not a search for the truth. Litigation is to put the notice on trial. Litigation is to put the notice on trial. Last year you said it is service, this year you are saying it is goods. Why? They are like that only. Last year we tried, it didn't work. Now we try this, let's say it will work. Last year you said it is taxable and you did, and exemption cannot be given. Last year I said like that. This year it is not taxable. ITC has been taken wrongly. You won't believe it. Last night I saw a show cause notice. Small show cause notice. Observation number 1. It says you are serving food and drink. You are serving food and drink for human consumption. You are paying 5% tax, but you are also claiming ITC. So please pay another 13% tax. You see what they are doing? You are serving food and drink, you are paying 5% tax. When you pay 5% tax, you are not permitted to take ITC. Since you are taking ITC, please revise the rate from 5 to 18. Please pay additional 13% tax. Friends, when you look at notices like this, I'll bring you to this aspect of doctrine of election. When there are two paths to be followed to raise a demand, there are two paths to raise a demand. Officer chooses one of them. The path that he did not choose becomes your defense. The path that he did not choose becomes your defense by doctrine of election. So when he said that he wants additional 13% tax, the short reply was that ITC is not to be claimed. You have not demanded ITC. We will see what is going to happen in due course. Officer then said, then I will confirm demand for ITC reversal. Can he confirm the demand for ITC reversal when the show cause notice was given for demanding 13% tax? The grounds on which the notice is given, on those same grounds the demand must be confirmed in adjudication. We have decisions of Supreme Court that confirm this position. We have this provision directly in the law itself in 75(7) to say that this is not liable for amendment like this. The same ground should be used. Another aspect, another example, it's so practical, it's so relevant for us because as soon as we see a notice, we tend to get overwhelmed with the quantum of demand. We have to be very dispassionate. Any surgeon who has managed not to have a successful career without seeing blood, it's exactly like that. Any practice in GST will invariably bring us to a point where we will see notices. So there was this notice that said, you are a works contractor. You are a works contractor, but you and your customer, you have colluded. You and your customer, you have colluded. And you have split this works contract into sale of goods and provision of services. It's all coming from North Karnataka. You have split this contract as supply of goods and supply of services to evade payment of tax, and a show cause notice was issued under section 73 for a substantial amount of money. Taxpayer came running, says, can you do something about it? Of course. For every notice, there is something that can be done about it. So we said, do you have money to pay this tax? He says, no, I don't have money to pay this tax. Do you have money to pay fees? That much money I have. Please. Once we got past the question of fees, short reply was given. The client was disappointed. Sir, so much fees, why short reply? After CA final, we have changed the practice. No extra answer paper. Short reply. We received your show cause notice on so and so date. Department has accepted there is no evasion of tax. When there is no evasion of tax, self-assessment cannot be rejected. Kindly drop the demand. 4 lines reply. Sorry, 4 lines, how much fees, sir? No connection. That is why fees in advance. So now we find this reply, officer apparently fainted. Is it a good indication or a bad indication? Of course, happy married life has taught you that. So the officer said, I want to talk to you, please come to my office. What's the first question we have to ask when the officer tells you to come to office? Immediately, sir, those days are gone. The question that we have to ask is, come to office, which section? We need to know the section. Which section? What action? Which section? Disconnect the phone. 2 days later, he sent a personal hearing notice. Now I will come. Where did I say that there is no evasion of tax? Entire notice I am screaming that there is evasion of tax, there is pollution, malafide, etc., etc. Yes, yes. You have said this many times, does not mean it is true. You think there is evasion of tax. You think there is evasion of tax. Please remember, you are CA, he is BA. Who is more likely to be correct about your financial condition? So he said, when the notice is issued under 73, there is no evasion of tax. If there was evasion of tax, you are given notice under 74. He ordered tea. During hearing when they order tea, it means normally you should not even get a chair. Decency, you will get a chair also. When tea is ordered, then you know that you are going in the right direction. So he said, now what should we do about this? Please come to hospital. We are having a discussion. Probably I will share something with you there, but not here. No, I want to know what we should do about this. If you want to save the demand, you have to sacrifice the notice. Issue a new notice, then what reply you will give to that notice? You give that notice, then I will tell you. Next assignment. But if you want to save the notice, you will forego the revenue. You will forego the revenue. He's still contemplating what to do. I don't see him in hospital, so I don't think he's come here. Friends, please bear in mind, calmness. Calmness in the face of any notice is utmost essential. Everyone went through Corona. Taxpayer also went through Corona. We gave discount in retainership. Correct? Some people got tired of giving discount. What is this Corona? So many months it is still going on. I can't give any discounts. So those who got irritated, you know what they did? They raised a bill, paid GST, and then wrote off that invoice also. It's just to satisfy yourself. You'll keep doing things in the office. Anyway, they said work from home. You can do whatever work you want from home. You're doing all this. Invoice, credit note, bad debt, GST 1, 3B. Please be very, very clear in your mind. Everyone's going to get notice that this topic is so appropriate because SME segment is going to form the bulk of the demands and litigations in GST. So in that sense, the opportunity is enormous. The opportunity is enormous, and nobody other than chartered accountants can handle this. We may not like it. Whether we like it and we go running into, some children run into the school when the new school year begins. Some children sit at the gate and keep crying. Finally, they get hungry and get up and go into the classroom. All of us are going to be in that condition. We're all going to meet each other in the tax tribunal. We're all going to see litigation in a very big way. It's just that we just need to know what is going to give us a push to get started in this, because litigation is inevitable in GST. When you look at decisions, this is one thing that I want to quickly share with you before my time runs out here. Chartered accountants, I would even like to go one step further and make this accusation that we somehow have become case law chasers. I get messages on WhatsApp ever so often. I'm sure many of you also get messages. Sir, on 16th for any latest case law, sir? Sir, this is Shah Rukh Khan latest what is released, sir? On 16th for what is latest case law, sir? I know, sir, Andhra Pradesh, I know, sir. Anything, sir? Patta, your latest. Anything else from Bombay, Delhi? Case law chasers. Please bear in mind, I'm sure we have all seen enough case laws that have been overturned. A decision is rendered, it goes to the next authority, and they say this decision was not right. When we start abdicating, thinking on our part to case law, we'll never have an answer of our own. When we're dealing with advisory work, when we're dealing with litigation work, what is utmost essential is for us to have an opinion. We must have an opinion about what is the interpretation of law. Is it taxable? Is it not taxable? Is it supply? Is it not supply? E-way bill required? Not required? Credit admissible? Credit not admissible? Safari retreat is all right, safari retreat is not all right. Is this decision tenable, not tenable? It's almost like the moment we find a judgment, thinking stops. It's as if we are barred from thinking beyond that judgment. A new judgment comes up, then our thinking diverts into this direction. Now we start looking at some other perspective. Friends, I would simply urge you, let's read the law for the sake of reading the law. Let's read the law for the sake of reading the law, because interpretations will come as we refine our understanding of this law, and department also is in similar fashion doing the same. Just look at what's happening in this gaming sector, the notices, the amount of attention it is drawing, the quantum of demand. Can you imagine there is some handful of people sitting somewhere in some corner of the country thinking about it and feel so confident that they will go public with an interpretation that is shocking the rest of the country. And another handful of people sitting somewhere else who are so confident that this will not stand, going public to contest the demand. Everyone is putting so much at stake. It requires us to step up and see what is it that needs to be done, because this definitely is going to be true in GST, because that litigation is here to stay, litigation is not going to go away. There are so many aspects to GST. If you take those with experience under the earlier tax law will give some perspective. Those without that experience of the earlier tax law will have a totally different perspective to GST. Whatever it is, I think we should embrace this opportunity to see how is it that we're going to read this provision, how is it that we're going to come to a conclusion. Because in GST, is there any one person anywhere who can say that he's got all the right answers? Any one person who can lay claim to the fact that he's got all the answers and all his answers are right. If there cannot be a single person, why can you and I not be another person in this group of people who are all trying to learn and come up with their own ideas as to what should be this position of law? GST is going to occupy such a significant part of our business. I'll give a few examples very quickly to share with you how is it that it's going to apply. Director's salary paid as director in a company has been paid commission. Director in a company has been paid commission. TDS is deducted under 182. GST applicable, not applicable. Director paid salary, TDS deducted under 194J. GST payable on reverse charge basis or not? Friends, please bear in mind, GST does not operate in isolation. GST does not operate in isolation. GST is intimately connected with so many allied laws that we constantly deal with. How to reduce profit? The old trick. How to reduce profit? Increase expenses, decrease value of stock, and all the 50 other adjustments that we have invented and we think that nobody else knows, only we know. When you increase expenses, what are we doing? We are accounting inward supplies without any actual supply. Please bear in mind, section 122(1) squarely applies to these transactions. There is a taxpayer whose staff welfare expenses have been disallowed in income tax assessment. Taxpayer whose staff welfare expenses has been disallowed in income tax scrutiny assessment. Any GST treatment required? Staff welfare expenditure disallowed in scrutiny assessment a few years later. Any GST treatment to be given based on the outcome of this scrutiny assessment which has been accepted and not appealed further. A taxpayer in India creates a PE outside India, permanent, creates a branch office outside India, goes outside India to do business. Promoter of a business applies for permanent resident visa in Middle East or Singapore. Any GST treatment required? Friends, today it is such a connected world. In the past, income tax department did not know what was going on in service tax. Service tax department did not know what was going on in service tax also. Today they are all connected. They are so connected now they don't know what to do. Why is your debtors not matching with creditor? They are used to finding everything matching with everything else. So this works contractor, I showed this 2A to an officer, said, sir, his 2A is matching with 3B. Any problem? Hey, everything is matching. It's all right. Everything is matching. And if you take the breakup of the 2A, it turned out that that entire 2A credit was from motor vehicle purchase. Cement and steel is not there. We are doing excessive, probably these are early days, we are doing excessive linear comparison of data. This is not matching with that, that is not matching with this. Machine is learning, others are not learning. Machine will one day finish learning, others are not even started. This linear comparison is not sufficient to establish wrongdoing. We have to visualize that in our own small way. You don't have to visualize that you are getting into complex litigation. We will leave complex litigation to Sudhi, Rajesh, then they'll take out. When we need it, we'll go talk to them. It's their headache, how they will do it. We go on holiday, they will not go on holiday, they will sit and struggle with it. That is what makes them happy. But if you visualize how is it that you're going to, in your own small way, put yourself on this pedestal. Let's see our self-worth. Because nobody can understand accounts. Correct? Nobody can understand accounts. Today some youngsters don't even know accounts. F11, F12. Purchase F11, sales F12. So therefore, please bear in mind, how do you think tax officer will understand accounts? Here is a chartered accountant who knows accounts, who is very insightful about business. How he makes money, where he loses money, how does he get contract, where does he not get contract, how come this fellow is getting so much of contracts, these are things that we are naturally trained to think and conceptualize and do scenario building and test various areas where there is weakness in the system, etc. And the third aspect is we know GST so well. I mean, right from the time RK sir was in the Indian Tax Committee, and since he continues to carry those responsibilities in the committee, the certificate courses, the refresher courses, the newsletters, the updates, the magazines, the publications, enormous amount of material is available on IDTC website itself that helps us to understand what we need to do. With all these resources in our hands, I don't think there is anybody more competent than a chartered accountant to launch themselves into GST litigation. It's just that we think GST litigation is exactly like how it happens in the movies. It's nothing like how it happens in the movies, and you don't have to take my word for it. You can simply go and sit in the tribunal. Tomorrow you go and sit in the tribunal. Monday you go and sit in the tribunal and you see what goes on. Simple conversation is going on. Just like how you have conversations in your office or in your study groups, conversation is taking place, but everyone is very sure because nobody wants to write a bad judgment. I found this very effective when we're dealing with adjudication and first appeal. There's this thing called doctrine of merger. If there's any mistake committed in adjudication and the first appellate authority endorses that interpretation, that mistake will now become the mistake of the appellate authority. Nobody wants their judgment to be erroneous. So they will want to give a right judgment. So you will be pleasantly surprised to see how much everyone wrestles with the issue to come to an understanding as to what should be the correct interpretation. Everyone is very closely involved in the discussion. If you see that, it's so encouraging that we may not have all the practice, we may not have all the talents even to do it right away, but in our own small way. Take an AS7010. Take an AS7010. I saw on AS7011 reply, there's a conclusion written there. I don't know why that person thought fit to write a conclusion. He has concluded, respected sir, with folded hands I am submitting that the demand may be dropped. If the officer was in front of him, he would have probably prostrated in front of him. Middle class morality, good upbringing, good family background, ellargu namaskaram, kalig bitbidadu. These are all not things that are necessary. Take AS7010, see how you want to respond. Find 3 ways to respond to the same notice. You will find that there's going to be new vigor, new strength that you will find in the way you provide responses. Because in GST, every provision is complex, every provision is riddled with so many ways to look at it that it's not possible for any one person to have all the answers. Litigation is inevitable because litigation is not to discover the truth. Litigation is to put the notice on trial, and here is one taxpayer. What is the success rate? What is the chance that the government wins all its cases? Empirically, historically, government has a success rate of 15%. Finance Minister made the statement in the floor of Parliament that 15% of the cases we are winning. There is an 85% chance that we will win readily. Don't we want to get into this? When we look at reading the law, our loyalty is not to the law, our loyalty is not to the taxpayer, our loyalty is not to the tax department, our loyalty is to the law, our loyalty is to the craft. If we build our skills, clients will come looking for us because they need to know who knows the answers. When we look at how we interpret these provisions, let's not start with a conclusion. Okay, I think I should come up with an answer that it is not taxable, and I'll start reading the law in such manner. I would rather all of us read the law and come up with our own interpretation. When we come up with our own interpretation, it will be our wrong answer, which is better than reciting somebody else's right answer. as we keep coming up with wrong answers, it doesn't take too long for us to reach a point that we will pleasantly surprise ourselves that we are even able to come up with right answers ourselves. I thank SIRC for giving me this opportunity, all of you for your participation. All the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful address.
Ladies and gentlemen, without a paper before him, without the support of a PPT, Jatin has spoken for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. Hats off to you, Jatin.